Okay, so after you've plotted the 6 points, you should see your image should look like this. So it should end up looking like a hexagon. Okay, notice though that the top and the bottom of the hexagon do not have the same length, the same measurement. So AB is a little bit longer than side ED. So what we need to do is look inside this hexagon and start making shapes within the hexagon and finding the area of those smaller shapes. So as I said in class, one thing you want to do is try to find the largest rectangle you can. That way you can use that simple base times height formula. So if we look right here, starting at E, work your way up, and starting at D, you can work your way up. Okay? And so you'll end up seeing a rectangle right here. Okay? Now from there you see that you've also created a triangle on this side. So now we have a triangle, this rectangle, but then inside here we still don't have a triangle or a rectangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take point F and I'm going to draw it straight across to create a right triangle down here. Okay. Then I see up here I'm still left with some sort of an odd shape. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to take A and I'm going to go straight down from A. And you'll see that I've created now another smaller right triangle, but I also have this rectangle right here. So now what we can do is find the dimensions of each of these shapes. Okay. So what I'm going to take a look at is I'm going to take a look at rectangle 1 first. Okay. So on the back, you see that I've already kind of gone through and done some of the calculations. So if we look at the rectangle, okay, you'll see that it has a base of 9 or base of 3 and a height of 9. Okay, that'll give us a total area for the rectangle of 27. Okay. Moving on to shape 2. Okay, so shape 2 is going to be that small right triangle on the side. So I'm going to label this as shape 1. This is shape 2. This little rectangle here is going to be shape 3. We have shape 4 in there. And then the big triangle off on the side is going to be triangle 5. Okay, so it should end up looking like that. Okay. Then coming back to our area, okay, you should see your area measurements looking like this. So your small right triangle on the side has an area of 4. That little rectangle, shape 3, has an area of 4. And then finally, rectangle, or the shape 4, triangle, has an area of 7.5. Okay, so then you're left with that large triangle off on the side. You go through that, and you should see an area of 9. Okay, so now we've taken that hexagon and broken it up into 5 smaller shapes. So now what we need to do is take those 5 area measurements and then add them up. So now our total area then becomes 51.5 square units. Okay. And so we have to make sure that we also identify that the shape is a hexagon. And finally, the last thing that we need to do is show the measurement as an expression. So looking through this, remember we have that large rectangle that we started with. Then we did that small triangle off to the side, number 2. The small rectangle, then we have the other right triangle on the bottom, and then finally we have the large triangle on the side. Okay, lining those up. Okay, so then what we need to do is we now need to move on to number 2. You'll see that we have points X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to pause the video here so that I can label my points on my coordinate plane. Okay, now that you've labeled the 3 points, you see that you've created another triangle. Okay, now again, none of your side lengths line up as vertical or horizontal lines. So what we need to do this time now is break this triangle as part of a larger rectangle. So what we can do is view it as, starting at point X up at the top, make straight lines all the way across to use your horizontal and vertical lines. Okay, so now we can see this large triangle is part of the rectangle. So we'll find the area of the rectangle and then subtract from that these other triangles that are right triangles and work from there. So from this, so that we have triangle 1, we say triangle 2, and we say triangle 3 down there. So triangle 1, okay, you'll see that you have a base and your height. Okay, so for this one, we see that we have a base and height that are both 7 units. Okay. Triangle 2, we now see that we have a base of 6 and a height of 6. Okay, we have 6 here, 6 there. Okay. Finally, we have triangle 3. We have that base of 1 down here. Then we have this long side right up here. That's 13 units. So this time we have a base of 1 and a height of 13. So now when we come over here to take a look at our area measurements, okay, so our large rectangle has dimensions of 13 by 7. So the large rectangle now has an area of 91. So now triangle 1 up at the top, okay, remember we had a base of 7, height of 7, so that has an area of 24.5. Triangle 2, okay, on that bottom right-hand corner, we had calculated a base of 6 and a height of 6, so that gets us an area of 18. And then finally that small triangle on the left, okay, has an area of 6.5. Okay, your base of 1 and your height of 13. So now add those up, or subtract them from the total one at a time, and you'll get an area of 42. So you can either start at 91 and subtract each triangle one at a time, or you can add up the area of the 3 triangles and then subtract that from 91. Either way, you'll get 42 square units. Okay? And then obviously, this shape is a triangle. Okay? Now, moving on to question number 3. Okay. Take a look at question number 3. Notice that this one is not giving us a coordinate grid. Okay, so they just give us these 2 points. So we have -3, 4, and 5, 4. But we should notice that they both have the same y coordinate. So they're going to end up being on a horizontal line. Okay, now it has an area of 32. So what we need to do is determine the location of the other 2 vertices. So in order to do this, we use our area formula, okay, because it is going to be a rectangle. So we know that it is an area of 32. So what we can do now is see that the absolute value of -3 plus the absolute value of 5, okay, gets us 8. So that means we have length of 8. We need to solve for w. Okay, divide both sides by 8. We see that we have a width of 4. So what we need to do now is think about points that are going to give us 4 square units on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at point A, and I see that I have -3, 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, and I'm going to subtract 4 from my y coordinate. So instead of being at -3, 4, now I have a point here at -3, 0. Okay. Then I do the same thing with B. I take my x coordinate, keep it the same. I'm going to subtract 4 from the y. So now I'm at 5, 0. So one way we could do this is the other 2 points okay, are -3, 0 or 5, 0. Okay. Now another way to think about it is instead of subtracting 4 from our y values, we could also add 4. and have our rectangle go up top, like this. Okay. So we could also add 4 to our y coordinates. So we could keep -3, but then it would be -3, 8, and 5, 8. So remembering that we need to either add 4 or subtract 4 from those y coordinates in order to get those two rectangles. Okay? And then finally we have the challenge. So now this time we have a triangle. Okay, so area formula for the triangle becomes a little bit different. So now we have the 1/2 base times height. So now we know that we have an area of 20. So we keep the 1/2. Okay, so now what I see here, okay, is we have a base over here. So now what I'm going to do is I see that I have the same y coordinates. So I need to find the distance between our two x points. So absolute value of -2 plus the absolute value of 3, okay, that gets me 5. Okay. So what that means is we have a base of 5. Okay, so from point A to point B is going to be 5. Okay, now we need to find the height. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 20. I'm going to say 1/2 times 5 is 2.5. So I'm going to simplify that expression. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by 2.5. Okay. Enter that into your calculator, and you should get a height of 8. So now what we need to do is we need a point that's going to have a height of 8. Now we actually have a whole bunch of different options that we can choose. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick A, and I'm just going to go up 8 spots to create a point. So I'm going to keep my x coordinate the same. So point A is at -2. Okay, but now I need a point that's 8 above -3. So I'm going to take -3 plus 8, and that's going to give me 5. So that means my third point up here is going to be 5. And then that will create this right triangle here. Okay? Now there's many other different possibilities of where you could put that third point to have that height of 8. Okay, so this isn't the only point that you could have, but this is one way to get that height of 8. So the third vertex could be -2, 5. Okay? Now please try your exit ticket and make sure you have it get checked.